We have a few more students joining us, but that is quite all right. Now in our syllabus, we come today to system theory and culture as well. So this is a little bit theoretical. The good thing is, in the seminar later on, we have a look at the analogy of a music paradigm. So it's a very old video that my colleague kind of bought for a lot of money in the past, but it's actually still good fun to use as an analytical tool to look at an organization as a system. And music makes probably quite a lot of sense, but actually we have a look at it in terms of organizational structure, hierarchy and localities. So this will be actually fun to make sense of the pretty heavy system theory. Yeah, I try to talk you through it, come to definitions that we understand. And quite interestingly, the system theorem is still something that is very popular for project manager. Yeah, so we have actually stolen a lot from it. We come to that in a second. And when I say stole, adapted, of course, healthily. Yeah, so it's still a dominant theorem that we kind of use in project management, of course. Yeah. Okay. So the objectives for today's session, if you want, is to understand the historical context out of which system theory emerged, then know the basic principles of systems perspectives. So if you're an engineer, you have probably done that already for model design already, or as well to test maybe your prototype or look at certain characteristics. Morning. And understand how a system view conceptualizes organizational communication. And last but not least, understand Wick's view on organizing. And we have as well Niklas Luhmann. So Wick was I think he's Austrian actually. Yeah, and if you're really interested in it, he kind of thought that communication is just a question of understanding more and more refined what words actually mean. Yeah, and if you're philosophically interested, then Wittgenstein was the opponent. He said, like, you Austrian, you want to define language so precise, we don't use language like this. Language is based on our experience, and that was kind of the big thing. But Weick's Austrian school thought is actually one that went quite far down to operationalize the system view management theory. And Luhmann was kind of, he is really the man renowned nowadays for system theory. He has kind of provided us with a system theory that actually holds empirically up. Yeah, but his intent is not to predict, but to describe. So to better understand as well as a manager what dynamics you're getting into if you have certain structural tools or process tools, and that people fall into those notions basically systematically. Yeah. Okay, so let's start first of all with situating the system perspective. So here we had really a shift from a mechanical to a biological, organic metaphor for viewing organizations. So you may remember last week and the week before, we kind of had this scientific notion of management, which was quite deterministic. So the idea is once you get it right, yeah, that you can actually predict how people work, and there was the efficiency play in it. Now the system theory was really a recognition that there's maybe a lot more to it. And again, we had this already last week, that maybe the bureaucratic system is too deterministic in terms of making it actually an organization theorem that people would embrace. Yeah, and the biological and organic metaphor came really kind of from the ecosystem idea. But again, if you're interested in this, in the chapter, it's actually described quite well from our book. Yeah. Then this was a move as well from determinism and reductionism, characterized by knowledge prior to systems perspective. In a way, this is what I just tried to explain actually. Yeah, so, and we still do this in management, of course, well, we have to a degree. Then there's a system thinking shifts science away from studying objects to studying processes and transformation. So here comes as well our innovation or invention of the project lifecycle from. Yeah, if you want, this is a typical model that is kind of derived from system thinking. So recognizing that there are different stages across a project and even product. Yeah? So it's a product life cycle where the typical processes that we kind of identified. Yeah? And last but not least is a shift to interdependency and perspectivism. Not certainty or absolutism, but if you understand something better from a particular perspective, then you can make more informed decisions, and you can even have rough predictions, yeah? or you have a good idea what will happen actually. Yeah, and this is really why it was very, very powerful and quite dominant actually in the management literature. Now initially this idea came from Ludwig from, I should really know, this is a German name, but Berta Launoffi, or Launoffi, something like that. Yeah. He was the kind of founder of the general systems theory, and yeah, this is still one of the key theorems for analysis. If you build a prototype or technology solution, this is one that you will probably fall over initially. So this was the general science of wholeness. So you kind of try to understand what you're trying to design your system for, what you're trying to solve. You're looking here at inputs, you're looking here at the process of what you can do and what the process is actually generating in terms of output, right? So, and we can do so with physical principles, yeah, so, well, what is so if you want to have elevation and you have heat, and you have a liquid that expands, right? Then you can heat it, and if it expands, you have a lift. If you have a chassis where it actually is hindered to expand in all directions, right? So or even burn, yeah. So, but again, so this would be a simplified system. So then Words is seen as a great organization in which everything is interrelated and interdependent. Now this made it as well kind of unhandleable. Yeah, so where does actually our project organization stop? Are you measuring as well the social interaction at home of your team workers? How they relate to the family, for example, or friends? Yeah, where is actually kind of the organization based? And this is as well where kind of the where we come actually to the different system definition. This is as well why we talked about different organizations, so multiple layers basically. Now, this was as well kind of the critique of the mechanistic view. We had that already, so which has undermined our sense of humanity. So, did you read last week the HR emergence? So you can see in the handbook there's actually a whole chapter where the HR movement came from. Yeah? It was the recognition that we work with people, so a scientific prediction of using people purely for doing physical work and not making them part of the greater goal or what they're actually doing, a purpose. Yeah, it's actually quite risky. Yeah, quite right, Jonas. So this gave kind of a new sense of belonging, and the HR movement was kind of in the 60s to the 80s. And then was quite quickly caught up. This is, by the way, in this century, last century. So we are now a lot closer to current literature, if you want. And the system theory was kind of the recognition that we have to give the people as well a perspective to be part of our project, not just items of our project, right? So, I mean, if you formulate it that way, you can notice how people would probably get upset about it. Quite rightly, right? So the system view was kind of an inclusion and recognized the people kind of as active agents as well in your project, right? So if you talk to them and you explain what you're achieving, you have their mind as well focused on what we are trying to achieve together. Yeah, and this is why, arguably, we have moral superiority of a system view. Yeah. So the system theory as well provides us a universal language. So this was really the input, process, and output analogy, but it kind of allows as well cross-disciplinary language. So that was actually quite powerful. And in project management, we still do that. Yeah, project management, you will see this if you go into any business environment or organization. It kind of gives you a communication tool, yeah, a language that spans across disciplines. So this is probably one of the most powerful features of our project management. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so what are, well, so this is kind of the recognition of organizations. We had that already. But again, here I wanted to give you a more recent definition to actually put that into context. So organizations are socially constructed realities. Now here we are still in the philosophy side. So rather than being defined by their structures, rules and regulations, they are constructed as much in the heads and minds of their members and are strongly related to members' self-concepts and identity. So this is really kind of stressing the whole notion that there's a soft side. So if you have like a team that just turns up to the job, yeah, and they're just there to make money and probably are not even interested in what they're doing, you have a very different dynamic in your system than yeah, when you have people that actually identify as well with the job and role. Yeah, so to give you an example what it may look like before we actually look at the parts, this is literally the kind of system idea. So you have inputs here, materials and resources simplified. Then you have kind of an environment or a framed situation, and you have kind of processes. So, and this is already the recognition of subsystems, if you want. So this being the whole system, yeah, which is based in a certain environment. And then you have a formal subsystem. So this could be, for example, management, operations, structure, management, technology, very important, maybe goals. Yeah? So with a system, you always try to achieve something targeted. Yeah? So maybe as well as strategy. And then you have kind of the informal subsystem. And this was particularly important for people like Luhmann, we will come to him later, recognizing that this always exists. So you always have politics, you always have a format of leadership, and you always have a format of culture that is a consequence really out of yeah, people being in the organization. So there's well modern jokes of it. If you are interested in the joke, have a look at the Flight of the Conchords. It's a band and comedians. They have beautiful songs. The humans are dead. Yeah, not that I promote the theme, but listen to the song, you will understand that then politics are even inherent in automation when robots are talking to each other. But it's probably not so consequential as for us as humans. Yeah? So this is important to recognize probably. Yeah, and then this is a process or the system that then allows you to have certain outputs. So for example, organizational goal achievement, and maybe employee satisfaction. Maybe that is something good. Yeah. So, and again, this is performed within the environmental constraints that kind of shape or influence as well the system, or make the system conditionality basically a reality. So, what are the principles of the system perspective? Now, well, first of all, there is an interrelationship and interdependence of parts. Yeah, so change in a system is not necessarily linear, but affects the entire system. And yeah, in the book you can read up on the butterfly effect. Does anybody know what is a butterfly effect? It's a butterfly, yeah. So this is a beautiful animal that kind of flies around. Oh, what is a butterfly effect? Does anybody know? Yeah? I take guesses? Anybody?
If you do something small, affect something large in the future.
Yeah. So this is a very famous theorem. The butterfly effect got actually somebody a Nobel Prize, yeah, and he showed that small systematic, well, it's actually a complexity theorem that proved, but they showed that a butterfly can make the difference with a wing force of forcing air down that makes a weather phenomenon a chaotic one, where it becomes a huge hurricane, or where just is small enough that it's neutralized by its environment. Yeah, so the force input from a small animal like the butterfly can basically determine a system implication or be the little brink that makes the difference, basically. Yeah. So that's the idea. I hope that makes a little bit sense. If we apply that a little bit more practical, yeah, so if you are in an organization and you have your client presentation in the evening, yeah, and everything is neutral, people are generally a little bit grumpy or nervous about the situation, but now you come in and smile and create a lovely atmosphere. You may make the difference to having a presentation that is neutral and happy versus when you arrive as well grumpy, you may actually affect your colleagues that everybody's grumpy. Yeah, and then the presentation is grumpy too. Not sure that that was a good analogy, but something along those lines. Yeah. So the impact is basically felt. So if you think about it, yeah, if you have efficiency arguments, so if you are a little bit slower in a process chain, you have a direct knock-on effect maybe on processes that your colleagues do later, then it's a lot more easy to visualize. But again, this is kind of the recognition, interrelationship and interdependence of the parts in your project. By the way, this is both. Yeah, this is human and non-human. Yeah, so this is as well machines, equipment, resources. Not really surprising, right? If your material arrives late and you're building a physical thing, then of course everybody's impacted. Yeah, you can kind of imitate of the wonderful things how you would actually assemble it, but you don't have the stuff. So of course this is as well part of non-human aspects. Yeah. Second principle is the holism. So the whole is different from the sum of the parts. Principle of non-summativity. So this is again the dilemma. Yeah. So carrying water up into the attic of my house. Yeah. It helps when we have many people, particularly if we have a lot of boxes of water to carry up. But if we are talking here about doing something together, like an assignment, then it doesn't necessarily help to have a lot of people. Actually, the coordination costs make this probably the opposing effect. Yeah. Now, holism has as well both positive and negative effects. So, creative problem solving, for example, can be positively affected. Yeah, so here, if you have a bigger picture, the more you understand it, the more you can actually look for a problem that really kind of addresses all the impacting issues, right? Negative one is groupthink. I think you do that with Alan, right? With Alan Osborne. Did you have groupthink already? So if you have a same experience horizon, so you may be a football fan of a local club, yeah, you have experience that despite all odds your team loses repeatedly, yeah, so just by pure chance they should win, then you may not believe in chances anymore. Yeah, this is quite grim, but the idea is that if you have all the same experience horizon, then you don't look at the same problem from different angles. Yeah, but at the same time, it's very easy to communicate about it. Yeah, because you have a lot of common understanding. Yeah, but yeah, so don't worry about this. I think Alan and Michel will cover this with you in a lot of detail, right? So they look at the typology of that. Yeah. Now, another third principle of the system perspective was kind of the input, transformation, output of energy. And here energy is normally the concept of the principles that are used in engineering. So here we had to kind of define energy as well. So all open systems exchange information and energy with their environments, and inputs to an open systems are transformed through various processes into something different. Yeah, so if you think of our project management process, right, it's a recognition that at the beginning there's an idea or the will to do something, and then we visualize it, we plan it, and then we actually do it, and at the end, by surprising effect of the project lifecycle, you have a product or service. If it's a product or service that you actually wanted in the first place, that's maybe a different question, but still the transformative or the transformation power is actually the important part here. Yeah. Now then we have as well negative entropy. What is, well actually it's defined. Entropy, does everybody know what that is? So it's another beautiful physical principle. I think it's find, have I? So yeah, okay, so here's actually the definition. Entropy is a measure of disorder in a system, but entropy is as well the recognition that most parts that are coming together fall apart by refinement. So you may be able to experience that socially with your parents, ask them what they did as for their work and life, and they may tell you something like 1 or 2 professions. This depends how old or young you are, and how active your economic market actually is, as a matter of fact. But the point is still that they probably had a very consistent kind of life and role in terms of work relationship. Yeah, whilst nowadays, for you will see we have actually refined, and you may work in a field as a project manager, but you may start as a assistant or junior project manager, then get promoted in more senior roles. So you initially really just manage one project, but then very quickly you have something like 7 to 20 projects, depending on what field you are in, which creates completely different issues. And then at some point they may promote you to be the director of a project management office. So you have no project whatsoever, but you're looking after programs and portfolios maybe of projects. Yeah? So and that is a little bit the effect. So whilst in the past this would be one role only, nowadays we have refined it, and you may actually face a lot of different refinements and probably topics that if you talk to very old project managers that they can simply not relate to. Yeah, it's I should probably not point fingers, but if you talk to people that have retired from project management, you talk about portfolios, they will say to you like, this is not what banks do, but in reality it's now a consistent role of project management too. Yeah. Now, so this is kind of how systems fall apart or become more refined, if you want. This is not always, it is actually disorder, to be fair. So negative entropy is as well an open system, is anything that is not chaos. Yeah, so and here as well self-organizing patterns. Yeah, so even if your team members kind of come up with an order, as maybe not described, this is still kind of an order. Entropy is a measure of disorder in a system, so we just had that. An open system counters disorder, so and this is kind of basically recognized as negentropy. Yeah, so against falling apart or chaos. And closed systems are entropic, cannot counter disintegration. So this is I mentioned this already, that in project management you become, for example, a junior project manager, so you can actually refer to other junior project managers quite easily because you're probably facing a similar experience. Now if you talk to the director, he may be able to relate to it, but he may be part actually of different agendas and has very different topics, still relevant for you, but in the coffee break he's probably referring to a different experience. Yeah, and the most classical principles, or what Ruben in particular and as well Wyke actually kind of described as cults. So in an informal it's the emergence of an informal organization that may establish itself into something that has more idea creating power than the actual project organization. Yeah. So if you are in a team of project manager, for example, and in the UK we have often drinks after work on Friday. Have you heard of that before? Okay, many people are skeptical. This shows that you have probably not participated in that cult. Yeah, this is pretty neutral at that point. So what is that? Drinks after work on a Friday? Is this a thing? Is it important to go? Let's look at it from an organization point. Would you go? Okay. So some people not. Well, what are your thoughts? You think it's good sport, yeah? Or so why would you go? Is this?
It's a good thing to socialize between colleagues and all, share the viewpoints and have some fun time basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you have already gone in a direction where you see that it actually pays off to build a better relationship. Yeah, so to maybe smoothen communication. I think you're already on functional outcomes, but it is well good to get socially to know each other. Yeah. Other aspects? Why is that maybe good? So is it an advantage to go versus not going? Would it pay off in your daily work? What do you think?
There's advantages for your health if you don't go.
Okay, yeah, so you're quite right. As an individual, yeah, it depends on how heavy the cult is enforced, yeah, on alcoholic beverages, yeah. So normally drinks after work implies kind of alcoholic beverages, yeah. Normally it's not compulsory though, so you can as well drink your sparkling water or something like that. Yeah, this may have counterproductive effects, but still, yeah, it's an option. So how can something like this become a cult? Why could that be a cult? But when does it become a cult, I guess, is the question.
When it frequently happens over a certain period of time, it becomes a norm.
Yeah. And what would make it a cult versus a formal organization that you may work in? So if you work in a project-based organization, right, you're all running projects, and there are some people that kind of go repeatedly to this, and others don't. Well, when does it become a cult?
Be negative if you don't go.
Yeah. So if it's actually in your work environment suddenly held against you that you're not participating, or even, so according to Niklas Luhmann, he can even describe that people are favored for certain projects. Yeah, so there's an amazing project that looks wonderful on your resume, and who gets it? It gets given to the guys that come to the Friday after hour drinks. Yeah, this is when the cult becomes kind of a problematic system. But Niklas Luhmann has shown that the tendency is always there because you have some better relationships. Yeah, and it's in human nature to kind of do that. Yeah? If you have a good manager, he has read this literature and tries to counterbalance this, yeah, this favoritism. But you will see not many managers have actually read all the papers and are not maybe completely aware of that. Yeah. Okay. Well, this was a cult tangent, yeah, if you want. We have as well an open and closed system idea. This is more in relative terms. So no human system is really completely open or closed. But you can analyze it as such initially, so it gives you actually limited reliability of the systems, or you may make claims that are not fully true. Yeah, so again, like you said, like not going is probably healthy for you. Hello, Jonas. Yeah, the classical idea is if you look at the work environment and you look at the extension of the work environment now to the pub, then you're probably right. But then if you go home and enjoy, like me, good cake, yeah, and probably too much coffee, then the odds are not that much improved, quite frankly, yeah, for our lifespan, yeah, all I'm saying. Yeah, so again, this is maybe only counterbalanced if you do something healthy or don't consume alcohol basically in that time, right? So this is the idea. So this is where the system would be once closed for the work environment versus open, realizing that there's a life afterwards, right? So this is a notion. Now we have as well with the system theory something called equilibrium, homeostasis and feedback. Now this is particularly important for one of the first systems. So Niklas Luhmann kind of jumped this actually and deferred a little bit from the terms. But here, to quickly define it, open system maintain equilibrium through homeostasis. So it's a steady state. What does that mean? Homeostasis. What do you make of this? Nobody read the chapter? So in the chapter there are actually beautiful case studies with this. So you may want to read up on it, but it's a recognition that people actually kind of repeat their practice. So if you're working in a company and you have been kind of told what to look out for, then you're very likely to take ownership of this and kind of reproduce the steady state. Yeah? Now, permeability is the next one. So permeability of a system boundaries allows information sharing with the environment, allowing corrections in the system performance. So this is the recognition, literally what I said. If you have a work environment and you recognize that externally something is changing and you realize it's relevant for your organization. So for example, in our project, we have recognized that the other companies start recruiting all our good project managers, and they have higher pace than we have, then our system may be a fragile one, and we potentially lose important staff. And this would be kind of the recognition. So if the company or the PMO director is on the ball, then he will probably offer pay rise as well internally to avoid this, right? So now this doesn't always happen that way, but again, this would be kind of an example. Now then we have as well systems receive both negative and positive feedback. So this is kind of deviation, counteracting is the negative part, and deviation amplifying is a positive one. And that later one produces system growth. And keep in mind, we are looking at this here in terms of communication. So if you have positive feedback, it literally adds to the system. If you have negative feedback, it decreases. Now this is not really the message, right? So you could have a positive feedback, you have a pay increase. This wouldn't actually be seen as a negative one. This would be still seen as like a positive one, because you create probably communication on it or increase actual systems performance. Well, if you perform better. Now the principle 6 is hierarchy. So systems process information on multiple levels. This is to say that there as well. This is my next point actually. So all hierarchical orders levels are interrelated, and this creates then subsystems, systems, and suprasystems. So this is small, bigger, biggest, if you want. And it was as well recognizing that our organization maybe is part of a social construct, maybe an economy, and again the economy is kind of rooted within people. So if we don't have the people, then we don't have actually an economy in the first place. So they correspond in interdependent manner. So each level influences and being influenced by the others. It's kind of I hope that makes sense. Now the last part is actually the goal orientation, and again here this is a direct relation to our project discipline. So here goals are before we define it, all open systems are goal oriented. They are based on feedback, positive and negative, enables the adjustment of goals. So this is kind of counterbalancing the entropy idea. So if you come together as a group, you may have your personal interest. Your one team member may want to look at this in a mathematical way, but you may have to organize it to have a particular outcome. Writing a paper. So then you may want to enable feedback so that you can see if you're actually achieving the goal. It's a sense-making non-stop. And the whole idea is really to achieve the goal, right? Not to go off on the tangents. Although this may be very fulfilling for the individuals, to kind of follow their sub-goals, but this kind of would fall apart if you don't have a coordinating concept of feedback. Now, in large organizations, this can be as well conflicting, and I've already named a few. So if you want from a project-based organization, the typical one is R&D versus marketing. How could it be conflicting? R&D and marketing? So one has just like formulated the ultimate patent to solving all world's problem, and the other one wants to write about it. What's the problem maybe? Actually, if it's a patent already, it's probably not so problematic, but why could there be conflicting goals of the, so those are both part of the same company, right? So this is not meant as research and development as a separate unit per se. So if we are both in the same kind of organization, same system, Why could there be conflicting? And goal orientation. Well, what do you think?
You often get sales and marketing selling something that you can't produce.
Yeah. So, so marketing and sales have potentially run off and promised criteria where R&D looks just at the criteria and they're like, no, this is not what we're doing, and they're panicking, yeah, with their products. So, but this is normally operations panicking, right? Or when it comes to the product design or something like that, they have promised that it can do a lot of things and it can't. R&D and marketing, what do you think? System-wise, what is marketing doing with our organization? Or what is the role of marketing? What do you think?
Extending the company's reach.
That the company is rich.
Extending the company's reach.
Oh yeah. You're spot on. Yeah. So marketing is really about outreach, yeah, and kind of communicating as well. What's an offer for sale? Again, that should be arguably sale, yeah, but as well positioning it. They have something like 4 Ps, which are now 7 Ps, which is something about product, placing, price. Yeah. If you're interested in this, yeah. So this is kind of what those guys try to do. They kind of try to place your product in the market. What does R&D do? Any guesses?
Research and develop new products.
Yeah, research and developing products. And what does that mean? In our systems, do we do that outwards or do we do it inwards? Yeah, you're spot on, yeah? So it's an inwards activity, yeah? It's an inwards activity where we kind of try to probably create something that is better than competitive products, something new, and you certainly don't want the whole blueprint of how to do something being kind of communicated outwards that somebody else can copy it without having the development costs, right? So that is at least the argument. Yeah? So here they are often interested in knowledge leakage and how to prevent it, whilst those guys are often interested in knowledge sharing and how to increase it. Yeah? So simplified. But again, this is more a system dynamic than probably cut that clearly into the lines. But those are kind of the traditional, that was the goal orientation principle. Then we have as well more refined ones. So here we have the equifinality and multifinality. So this is kind of recognizing that a system can have one output, but you can have multiple outputs. Yeah, and you probably have heard of that when NASA tried to create better spaceship. There was a famous advert in the 80s. Actually, there are multiple ones. Now there are a lot of funny side outcomes that they've kind of tried to promote as a success of their project, but we're often down to mistakes. So do you remember the Teflon pan? Has anybody tried with the Teflon pan? No? Teflon? It doesn't scratch when you go in with a fork, and the steak or whatever you make doesn't get stuck to the pan? Okay, so some people not, others don't. So the Teflon pan was actually a new tile that they wanted to put on a spaceship, but it kind of burns when you heat it up to 1,000 degrees. So don't put it in a high, well, anyway, that goes to fire. But the point is here we had multifinality. So they had an outcome product and they designed it for the spaceship. They put it on a spaceship, tested it and burned. They were like, oh, all this research for nothing. And then a smart NASA guy was like, no, it isn't. It's a pan. Don't you see? And so this is basically the recognition, right? So it wasn't just a pan for a spaceship. It turns out this is a great material for a pan. Yeah. Or the pen, the Russians were all kinds of funny product examples of this. So America, the NASA developed a pen that can write without gravity, underwater, and upside down. You have probably noticed this, right? Have you ever written on a ceiling? That's probably not something anybody does, but a lot of pens will run out. Yeah, and they spent something like 10 million to have this pen that can write upside down without gravity and everything. And then there's a Russian cosmonaut with a pencil. Yeah, and so this is a whole joke basically. Yeah, didn't spend the money and still same characteristics. But again, so on one side we have the multi-finality, yeah, and the other one is the equifinality. So in an open system can reach the same final state from multiple initial conditions and paths. Yeah, so this means as well you can come to a similar outcome starting with same inputs or slightly different ones, but going in different paths. Yeah, so you have probably seen this in project before, that you can achieve a similar goal by doing slightly different things, but still achieve it. Yeah? Now there's as well a multi-finality, so this is an open system, can reach multiple goals and states from same initial conditions. So both principles capture the complexity and dynamics of an open system. Yeah, and this was really kind of a key breakthrough as a new perspective for us. Now, if you look at it as organizations as communication systems, which we kind of have argued along this lecture series, you see organizations functions as a communication systems by selectively coding and interpreting inputs. So this sounds very awkward. In other words, it's like you give me feedback to, for example, what you want from me as a project manager, and I as a team member listen and try to kind of encode it in my mind and make sense. That is basically what we are talking here about, right? So, and if you're good, then you kind of create a dialogue, right? So you check that I have understood what you actually want me to do. Yeah, so by maybe asking or listening what I'm saying. Yeah. Organizations as a collection of people trying to make sense or what's happening around them. So this is as well potentially input from external environments that your team members are exposed to, and it's a shift from conduit, so information transfer model, to a view of communication focusing on meaning and sense making. Now, this is actually quite important. So the classical example is, if we are all thinking of a tree, just a mental effort, quickly think of a tree. Okay. Well, is your tree green? Who had a green tree in mind? Nobody. Okay, it's winter. I see your point. Yeah. So maybe no leaves on the tree. Yeah. So what can anybody say? What tree did they have in mind? I had a Christmas tree in mind. Yeah. Anybody else? Christmas tree? Which one?
Maple.
Maple. No, not a Christmas tree then. Did you get the point? Yeah. So if we want to make sense of the exact tree, yeah, we have a lot of trouble here. We have to kind of refine and start communicating. And this is kind of the idea. Now, Walzerwijk and his team actually kind of refined this a little bit. So they kind of took the systems view of communication and looked at the characteristics of it. And he kind of recognized that all behavior is communicative, particularly when we look at management. So intent is not necessarily necessary for communication to occur. So this is already the descriptive account, and communication is relational and contextual. Yeah. So it has to make sense as well in its context, in your relationship to the person, of course, right? So it doesn't help if you're new in a company and you use a lot of company policy acronyms that nobody understands, right? So, and then this is very important actually, punctuation of communication is key to sense-making process. What is punctuation? What do you think? So punctuation in a sentence, we normally, actually ironically there's no punctuation, oh no, there's punctuation, yeah. But the idea is that you come to a close where you can actually act, right? So this is kind of important, where you actually arrive at something, and in a way, this kind of moves it from the initial sense-making to a point of showing if the sense-making took place or if it's a miscommunication. Yeah, and you may want to iterate it there, but this was kind of an important notion. Now this was kind of even taken forward. So Karl Wick and so this is the Austrian guy with his system. They actually took it further, and they recognized that maybe there isn't even an organization. Maybe it's more about, well, the sense making is more about organizing. Yeah. So he was looking at social psychology of organizing and the importance from the shift from a noun to a verb. Why could that be important? What's the difference between organizing and organization? If you think of the Northumbria University as an organization, what do you think of? Do you think of me as a lecturer, and then you guys sitting here and kind of conversing or exchanging communication? What do you think of a Northumbria organization, for example? What comes to mind?
Education.
Yeah, education. So this is already a soft topic in a way. Yeah, I was even maybe pitching towards the buildings, right? So if you think of Northumbria University, many people would probably think of the campus and the buildings and maybe education. Yeah, so you're quite right. So and this was kind of what Karl stressed. So he pointed out that this is actually misleading. Yeah, so those are special confines, or this is maybe the intent that we are after, education. Yeah, but the organizing is actually us coming together and doing it. Yeah, if you want, or communicating about it. Now, by the way, this is a big thing in management theory. If you're interested in this, there's a lot of literature to it, and it led to really weird phenomena. But again, so the book chapter actually talks about it in quite a bit of detail, so I won't preempt it. But important movement. So then we have as well organizations made up of fallible people who keep going. Yeah. So this is a recognition that it stays a university by people like me reading a lot of literature and then kind of attending lectures, yeah, to share my understanding of the literature and kind of hinting you and giving you access to the literature, right? So in a way, it's a continuation of this that makes it actually possible. Yeah. There's as well a role of retrospective sense making. This is kind of, it becomes a historic analysis, because if you look at it at the time, you don't yet know what it plays out to. So if you want to understand something, it helps to actually go back and have a look at past events. Again, this is not really mind-blowing, but important to recognize here. So in figuring out organizational life, how can one know what I think until I see what I actually say? So it basically fought as well the kind of idea that when you do prediction and they actually happen, how can you make sure that that actually happened by itself, or did they maybe listen to you and followed your guidance, right? So this is the old chestnut. And then you had as well a central role of language in creating organizational reality. And the joke was here, there ain't nothing till I call them. And this was kind of a recognition that organizations are just random people if you don't start doing something together and communicate, right? So otherwise you're just standing there together. And again, this can be maybe in an unorganized fashion. Now, with this came as well the organizations create and enact their environments, which must then be made sense of, and we focuses as well on the equivocal or uncertain information environment that enactment creates for organizational members and how they deal with this equivocality. So how do people actually kind of engage with uncertain environments, yeah? And last but not least, organizing is an ongoing sense-making accomplishment, so a process of making one's decisions rationally accountable to oneself and others. Yeah, and those were kind of the defining factors. And he came up with this very simple model. So this was actually his kind of model of how to define it. Now, just to preempt it, this actually works if you're in a very homogeneous area. So I have a feeling that it helped that they tested this in Austria, in valleys, where everybody lived together. Yeah, and it wasn't actually that easy to have a big turnover in the company because they all came out of the same village. They all had a very similar understanding of the words as well. So they used actually a very constrained vocabulary. Now be aware, already us here in the room, we are not a very confined unit. Yeah, so we are not all from the same village. We don't have all the same experience horizon. So for us, this model would be probably quite difficult to be sustained or proven effective. Yeah, so we would have actually a lot of ambiguity. But the point here is actually that you recognize that there's a process element that actually impacts on the performance of the organization sense making, and that was kind of the importance. Yeah. Now, the model of organizing was really a process of enactment, selection, and retention. So, it's basically the model before. So, organizing is a consensually validated grammar for reducing equivocality by means of sensible interlocked behaviors. So it means if you don't use the same word for something, the team around you can inform you what this is actually meant. So this was really kind of focusing on the words itself. So and you get a feeling it's already over the top. So but this was the kind of extremes of the system theory. Yeah. So and if the equivocality reduction is a key feature of the organizing, then you actually come to more meaningful system dynamics. Yeah, or it's actually pretty predictable then. Rules and cycles are the two main mechanisms for reducing equivality. So cycles consist of double interactions. This is like dialogue, right? A talks to B, B says like, I like a big bonus, and then A says like, no, we call this compensation. Yeah, okay. So then you know it's compensation, what you associate that with a bonus. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Now, actually, we have a look at the video as well, so don't panic. There are a lot of words in here, but once we work through the music theorem, it will become more clear. So organizing is as well, rules are established for organizational practice for reducing equivocality. So it's basically the idea that you come to a better understanding from each other, and rules used when equivocality is low, cycles used when equivocality is high. So basically if you have a common understanding, you can play with rules. If you don't have yet a common understanding, you have to create a dialogue to actually arrive at a common understanding. So again, it's not really mind-bending, just like a translation into predictable language, right? So there's as well a law of requisite variety. So this is match complexity of solutions, combination of rules and cycles, to complexity of situation, treat memory as a pest. What do they mean by that? Actually, an important question. So I've just, by the way, introduced this, but do we do this in project management? Do we have cycles? Do we review? Yeah, so somebody nods, and this is, so where do you see the similarity? Do we have something like this? So for example, this cycle, is this something that we have? Actually, it's a negative one, yeah. And that is a positive one. Okay, I noticed it's too conceptual at that point, but we do so, yeah. So this is actually plan, do, check, act. Does anybody recognize this? Yeah, so it's one of our typical tools that we have in our standard methodologies of project management. Yeah. And what is this? Ecological change enacted equivocally. This is feedback, right? This is feedback from your team members. Okay, so maybe Carl Wick took it a little bit too far for us, that we don't understand the science behind it anymore. But basically, this is like key mechanism for our communication. Yeah, and yeah, the past of the memory is our key element in project management. We often don't have a memory other than our individual memory. If you work with a project team and you work in a very diverse environment, the next project probably doesn't have the same team. Yeah, so it will be difficult to establish anything like a project memory. This is why those processes are so important to us. Yeah. Now, and with it was this word kind of understanding. Yeah, that the key point really is that we don't really have a predictability. So most of our projects, and this is actually the mind-bending thing from Carl, he kind of recommended you as a project manager to understand organizing is the understanding of jazz. Why jazz? No, wait, before we go with an analogy, I'll tell you the real answer. So to understand the organization as a plausibility interaction. Yeah, so we can have a goal, we can kind of verbalize it, we can try to communicate our imagination to the other people, and if they're good, they will communicate back and try to imagine too. But this is not accurate. Yeah? It's a goal of organizing actually to interact and find a plausible way of achieving your goal. Right? So it's a creative act. This is very important to understand. Yeah? So and that is as well why he used the jazz as an analogy. Has anybody played music? Who has played an instrument before? Okay, a few, this is good. Classical instruments, something like piano, a little bit Bach, yeah, just to keep it simple. No? So what instruments did you play? Guitar.
Guitars. I like playing piano.
Oh wow, okay, so guitar is actually more difficult, yeah, because you don't have a linear, so you know, piano is like, for somebody like me, it's kind of in a line, so you don't have to do complicated things, you just go along and then you're fine. So, but if you play guitar, have you played jazz before? No? Okay, this is maybe the next stage, yeah? So, how do you play normally music? Initially, how do you learn?
Lessons.
Yeah, lessons?
Teach yourself, like.
Okay, this is already advanced. I like, so I wasn't that advanced. Normally, you first learn by rules. You're repeating something. You get a sheet. You get a plan. Yeah. So you basically learn which order and how fast to play the notes after each other. Yeah. And then you can play that piece basically. If you're good, you are memorizing, or you are listening to it and you're kind of trying to play it after that. Now this is already advanced. Jazz is actually renowned for what? Okay, maybe the jazz analogy is really bad for us here. Yeah, but jazz is normally about improvisation. Yeah, so instead of training the same piece all together as an orchestra and then playing it together and it looks amazing, yeah, it's kind of a production theorem with performances. Yeah, we in jazz actually improvise. So I play a little bit and then I feel like now you can take the leadership and you play a little bit. Yeah, and then a music piece is kind of a plausibility. Yeah, we play a piece together, but we decide through communication who plays what. And apparently people pay money for this, yeah? So, for both. So in a way, there is a recognition here that there was a different understanding required than the predictability that we had before from the scientific management. Yeah. Okay, so actually we have a music piece later on in the seminar to use as an analogy. So I hope that will work. Now, there was as well certain issues with this concept, and it came as well to kind of the notion that actually Luhmann kind of took Wick's consideration completely apart. So his biggest enemy from the Austrian school was kind of Wittgenstein. Yeah? So if you have a weekend available and you want to understand it, this takes certainly more than a weekend, but it's an initial read, so Wittgenstein kind of counteracted that. But just to go through the points, so Wick considered a system theorist, but has much in common with a cultural approach, which we have as well later. Then there's a critical of rational models of organizational decision making. So rationality is only so far. This is actually important to recognize. So with a system, you're framing it as well. And which shows us as well how to think creatively and mutate metaphors accordingly to our system needs, really. And his theory has a strong practical applications of how organizations operate. So a lot of the theorems you still see actually as underlining theorems for analysis. Yeah, so empirically they are some of the strongest. Now the other gentleman that kind of turned system theory around and really had a strong influence is Niklas Luhmann and the autopoietic organization. So here the development of system theory of a society, and this was actually a descriptive piece. So autopoiesis as a central term in a theory. So this is a process of self-production. Yeah, so as well as people, we come together and we produce our, through our interactions, organizations. Even if we kind of interact randomly, there will be an order that comes out. So all systems are operatively closed. This is quite important. So as well as an organization unit, or when we have a project, we are actually closed as a project. We are achieving this together. Although we may belong to other units. Yeah, but for example, you as a team worker, for me, belonging to the project organization, may belong to a family, and I may have a family too, but I don't belong to your family, unless I'm your brother, yeah, or sister, or father, right? Or well, basically part of your family, right? So you get the idea. So, and basically, this means that they're operatively closed. Yeah? So we are still kind of connected with the organizations, but the operations are kind of closed away. Now, social systems as well reproduce themselves on the basis of communication. This can even be that when you do a project with your family and that you want to go for a nice picnic on Longstan's Timor's beach, yeah, then you use this project management language. Yeah, and this is kind of even potentially anticipated in the theorem. Yeah. And last but not least, you have as well social systems are nothing but communication, each with its own autopoietic system of reproduction. So it's kind of a recognition that even the organizing aspect itself is reproducing. Yeah. Now, every social system as well creates its own communication system. So if you look at it at outstanding, you can see this in project teams. You normally come to some quotes that are outstanding for your organization, or experiences that kind of have shaped like a more concise language that you kind of refer to as what we went through together, right? So here a social system ceases to exist if it stops producing communication. So not surprisingly, if your project team goes apart and goes on another project, then you're still working in a project organization, but not in that project organization anymore. So if you don't contact your former project project team members, then this organization ceases to exist. Not really surprising, right? So the purpose of a system is the production and preservation of difference. So a system is nothing except its differences from its environment. And again, this is not really surprising. A system's environment is specific to that system. So again, this depends how you're interacting, and of course the conditionalities that your kind of system is based on. Yeah. Now, Luhmann was as well kind of part of criticism. There's one big issue. Niklas Luhmann is as well a philosopher, so he's not really contributing to that area as such, but he has one of the strongest descriptive accounts. So if you want to use his theorems, they're very powerful. As well for simple description or mapping out, this is actually quite impressive stuff. So for Luhmann, organizations are not things that have a stable existence. They only exist to a degree. They can communicatively construct difference from their environment. So it's kind of a recognition. You can claim you're an organization, but if you kind of do what everybody else is doing here, then you're probably not your own organization. Yeah? autopoiesis can be viewed as well from critical perspective. So illustrates how systems of power are produced and reproduced. So here you have as well, and this is why I kind of pointed Luhmann in particular out, managerialism as well operatively a closed system as such. So we have as well our own language and managerial disciplines that actually kind of sustain itself in organizations like businesses or projects. Yeah, and that is actually kind of a key finding. Okay, where are we time-wise? Okay, let's think a little bit about the implications of system dynamics. And I wanted to do that with a small example of just thinking what the difference in terms of organization actually means if we look at a project organization where we have different team members, yeah, that are having different competences in this case, or different key traits, if you want, to other ones. Yeah, so here's a scenario: project management as a discipline. So you have a project manager needs to have technical expertise, but non-technical competencies are the key trait of the project management. So we need, of course, people with the traits. Now, in this organization, we are thinking about how we could best. Now, this is hypothetical. Yeah, it's not as simple as what I have described here. How you can best make a biro pen. What is a biro pen? That is very specific, right? What is a biro pen? Actually, nobody has a biro pen. This is a pencil. No biro pen. Okay, maybe this is a bad example. Normally, one student at least has a biro pen. Oh, what is a biro pen? Does anybody know?
Just a regular ballpoint pen.
Yeah. So it's normally the pen with a kind of plastic mine with the ink in it, and then you have normally a three-through plastic part on top. Yeah, so it kind of is actually three different parts. So there's a plastic tube, a plastic cap, and the ink holder. Yeah. So it's a very simple pen basically. Yeah. Now, here we have simplified it. Yeah, you have kind of operation T is making the plastic tube, operation C is making the plastic cap, and operation I is making the ink holder. Now the question is, what is the best way of organizing this? Are you with me, by the way? So does that make sense? What is the tube? The tube is literally the shell, right, where we kind of put the ink holder in. Yeah, so it's a protection device. Yeah. Now, okay, let's have a look actually how we can do this. So the big question is, should we kind of organize our structure based on function or product? What is better? So is it better in terms of operability to have one project manager on all those three guys in our team making a pen? Yeah, and there's another project team that has all these three, or is it better to keep them in a department? We have a department of plastic tubes, all three operators are based in there. Then we have a department of the plastic cap, and then we have an operations department of the ink holder. So in other words, yeah, they are basically making in that department 3 times the plastic tube, and then hand it on. And then they make 3 times the plastic cap, and they make 3 times the ink holder. So what is better in terms of structure? What do you think? Oh yeah, sorry, here I've written it down. So the kind of setting is each biro requires a tube, a cup, and an ink holder. The different machinery making this item varies in age and is replaced on a regular cycle. So the manufacturing team consists of a plant manager, 3 supervisors, and 9 operators. So this goes already a step further for the follow-up questions. But under these circumstances, this business could be departmentalized by function or by product. So one is kind of a product focus. What does it mean, product focus? What's the difference? What is the difference between function and product? terms of organizing? So what would be different? Any guesses? Would it be the same?
Would it be by product that you'd have 3 supervisors, one for each particular product, and one team to do each particular product, so they're just producing one single product, or you could have some other supervisors all of the process. Would that be functional?
Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. So functional would be the notion if you are the project manager in this scenario, the supervisor in the where that departmentalized would mean you would be part of one department, right? So you would look basically after, for example, the plastic tube department, right? And you would be the supervisor for the plastic tube department. Now, if it's organized by product, what would be different? Who would you supervise? I mean, you said it was spot on. Yeah, it's you would actually have one of each. There would be no department. You would have one operations T, one operations C, and one operations I in your team, right? And you would supervise them all 3. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it would look something like this, right? So functional-based structure would be manager, supervisor 1. This is kind of operators T, yeah, and then maybe your colleague would be supervisor 2, yeah. So you would look after the C's, and we would have a third supervisor that looks after the I's, right, for ink. Does that make sense, right? And each has their department. So they're all maybe based in the same workshop or in the same part of the factory as a department, and the supervisors basically overlook the department. Yeah. So this is again, and then you have the manager kind of overlooking the organization. And then we have the product-based structure. So here you have the manager and the supervisor looks after a team, right? TCI. Now the big question, I have them all at the same time, okay. In which structure is the job of the supervisor likely to be more difficult? So product-based or function-based? Or what do you think? And supervisor was this one, right? Here. Here the supervisor has TCI, and here the supervisor has III.
Product-based structure?
Yeah?
Product-based structure?
Yeah? And on what basis?
I mean, like, it's the tendency of human, like, not to make likely mistakes when we are doing the same repetitive steps, rather than making different various structures.
Yeah, it goes in the right direction. And what is so hard for the supervisor with 3 different activities versus 3 times the same activity?
Probability of making some mistakes and more is compared
Yeah.
to the other.
It's very easy for the supervisor to not pick up on the mistakes, right? You have to kind of, as a supervisor, understand all 3 steps of the production process, right? And the other, in the functional one, you see 3 times the same part, and you can directly compare. You see the difference. Yeah. Now, in which structure will the supervisors be most qualified to be promoted to plant manager level? So again, here, yeah, we have the TCI supervisor manager, and here it's the same, but it's supervisor of the department. So what do you think is easier? Yeah?
Product based, because you'll have more experience of managing all product.
Okay. Yeah? Yeah, so this is, here you have already the experience, right? So in a way you have already kind of tackled the difficulty of understanding each step. Yeah, you're spot on. So the manager is really just moving a step up. You have a fair idea. You probably as well understand what supervisor 2 and supervisor 1 experience, or what the team's experience. You can directly relate to it, yeah, to the issues, right? Whilst here, you have kind of deferred the learning to a manager level to actually understand the other departments, right, or the issues. So if you come out of EEE, you probably have understood how it can go wrong on many levels, but you have no idea what can happen here or what the dynamics are here in this organization. Yeah. So here you have the sub-organizations, and here you kind of have, again, a different layer, right? Okay. Which structure produces greater division of labor of operators? What was it in the system? In the system language, what was the term for that? If you look at the similarity of, okay, so have a look at the chapters, because those are kind of terms or keywords that you may want to use. But in terms of vocabulary, are we more similar here or more different? So which creates a greater divide between our operatives? So where can the operatives better talk to each other?
Functional based.
Yeah, you're spot on, yeah? So here they actually understand each other. They have a shared experience, right? So for them it's very easy to make sense. Here, this is actually very difficult. Because they all come with a different trait along, yeah, or with a different skill set if you want. Yeah? Okay. So this should be still quite easy and intuitive, I hope. Yeah. So because this gets more complicated, right? So this is a very simplified example, right? So yeah. Now for us as a manager, so this question, which structure allows the better comparison for each supervisor's performance? And if we are now the manager, and we look at the different sub-organizations, where is it easier for us to compare? So this is manager kind of looking at the sub-organization performance, right? So again, yeah, so here, the manager is here, looking at those teams, right? And then here, the manager is looking at those teams. And my supervisors have jumped in the lineage, but nonetheless, the idea is the same. What do you think? Yeah, which does allow better comparison for us?
Product based.
Yeah, on what basis? So, this one?
They all do the same job.
Yeah. Yeah, you can evaluate the product against it, each other. You can run them on time, who performs the quickest, yeah? So this is actually quite easy, right? And they arguably have the same systems or subsystems, right? Whilst here it's actually quite tricky. Why is it tricky here?
Because we're all doing a different job.
Yeah. So the activities may be different, right? This may take quite some time. This may be done quite quickly, and this could be just in the actual activities that are required. Yeah? Okay. Which structure produces operators who can be easily promoted to supervisor level? And any guesses?
Function.
Yeah. So we have one that is for functional. Any other claims? So here it's easy to be supervisor. Yeah, from operators. Who prefers product based? Anybody? Yeah, so this was correct. So you're quite right. As an operator, you have a very good idea of what you're doing. So arguably being the one that judges the quality is quite easy. But of course it helps to have a general managerial understanding. So not necessarily each operator has the right skills to be a project manager. So I would have accepted that answer too. Yeah. Now last one, with which structure will the firm be most affected if one department shuts down through equipment failure or strike? Or can be disease, yeah. The whole team got a cold, yeah. Can be quite drastic.
Function based.
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. So if here the whole team goes off, you have a problem. Yeah. Now again, with a strike, it depends on solidarity. So if those guys kind of strike together, then you lose everybody here too, right? But this was an ambiguous example. But the idea is like if you have the whole team here being, you're still producing on two lines. Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay, this is just systematic dynamics, and this is actually the easiest one. That was just looking at hierarchy and structure. Yeah. Now we have a closer look in the evening session at the organization of an orchestra. And it's really kind of working through the different elements of the systems. So I hope the definitions will make as well a lot more sense. And use this as a reflection piece. So in projects, we have the biggest dilemma with this, with the system dynamics. Because we are changing consistently potentially teams or have at least different clientele. So our goal orientation shifts dramatically. Yeah, but maybe think a little bit about it, and then at 3 we will have a quick look at how an orchestra works. So this is not my jazz music, but an orchestra. And then afterwards we have a look at the system dynamics and analyze it actually stage by stage, yeah, that we have a better understanding of the theorems. Yeah. Any questions so far? Okay, a lot to take in the morning. I'm quite aware this is probably one of the most heavy chapters. Yeah, so you will see in the future it's more about culture. It's a lot more relaxed afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Then I see you around 3 p.m. today here. Yeah.